1917 was directed by Sam Mendes and is the newest World War I epic to come to theaters. After two soldiers are given a message about a surprise attack coming from the Germans during World War I, they are dispatched to enemy territory to deliver the message to their comrades. I am a huge fan of war movies. Hacksaw Ridge was one of the best movies from 2016, and Saving Private Ryan is one of my favorite movies to ever come out. And I've been waiting for a World War I movie ever since I played the video game Battlefield 1, if you guys remember that a couple of years ago. And since then, I've watched plenty of World War I movies, such as Lawrence of Arabia, War Horse, and even Wonder Woman in 2017 was a World War I movie. So we have been given a decent amount of World War I films, but not even close to the amount of World War II films. So I always felt like there was a need for more World War I movies, and thankfully, Sam Mendes crafted his own, which is 1917. And I have been looking forward to this movie since the month of June. I made a video that was talking about the upcoming potential Oscar movies, and this was one of those top films that I talked about. Thankfully, I predicted it right. Originally, I was not going to make a review on 1917, considering this movie is actually a 2019 film, but was released in 2020 to audiences worldwide, and I didn't really feel like it was necessary. But after watching this film in theaters, I felt like I needed to do a review on 1917, because my anticipation was pretty high for this film. A lot of people were saying it's one of the best war films ever made, and after watching it, my feelings are very similar to that of Dunkirk. My expectations were extremely high, and definitely higher than they were for this film with that film Dunkirk, but they were never met with that movie, and the same goes for 1917. I left the theater feeling underwhelmed, and there are reasons for that. I'll get into that in a little bit, but first, I'll talk about the positives that I have with 1917. First and foremost, a lot of people are talking about this, so let's get it right out of the way. The cinematography in 1917 is some of the best looking cinematography that I have ever seen coming from a war film. This is a movie that is supposed to look like just one shot. There are barely any edits, and the film is seamlessly cut together. It's about as good as it gets when you do a film that looks just like one shot. Other films like Birdman have done this before, and it definitely works for this movie because you feel like you're going on a journey with these characters. Not having any edits, it seems like you never leave the characters' sides. You're always either right next to them, in front of them, or behind them the entire time, and I felt like that worked for some parts of this movie for sure. Along with the incredible camera work, the set designs are immaculate in 1917. This is some of the best looking set designs that I have ever seen for a war film. They look about as realistic as you can get. The landscapes, everything looks beautiful. I have no idea how they were able to put all of this together. And you can tell this movie was a lot of work. And it definitely worked out for them considering how big this movie ended up turning out to be and as epic as it felt. Sam Mendes, I know this guy has so much talent. He directed Skyfall, one of my all-time favorite movies, and Revolutionary Road. So it was pretty obvious that we were going to see a very epic movie going into it. And with a war film, you do expect to see some very intense scenes, and thankfully Sam Mendes gave us some. In the first 30 minutes, there is one scene that I think is the best in the entire film. It feels very claustrophobic. It was well done. I think the first 30 minutes and last 10 minutes are where this movie is at its very best. The cinematography makes this film feel extremely unique, and without the cinematography in this movie, it probably would not have been as good. But why do I think 1917 is not a masterpiece? Well, when you have the entire movie revolving around a one-shot take, it then compromises other potential great scenes that never come to fruition in this movie because you're on this long journey and the movie tends to feel very long because the movie never cuts. For example, when you can't cut for a movie like this, you're forced to stick along with the characters even when there's nothing going on. So there are some scenes in this movie where you see a giant field and the characters are walking and you just know for a fact that you're going to have to be with the characters for about 10 long minutes of them just walking and talking pretty much about nothing. It's not like you can just cut to a more exciting part of the film. No, you're pretty much forced to stick along with these characters no matter what. It doesn't matter if it's an exciting scene or a really boring scene. You're always forced to be with them. So by having this film feel like one long take, you're pretty much locking yourself in place. You can't avoid the downtime that this movie spends with its characters, and there is a lot of it. So for me, this movie was not well paced. Plus, the lead actors in this movie, their characters, I didn't really care about them too much. I feel like their characters were bland, weren't given much characterization. In general, I felt like the lead characters were dull, and you have other A-list actors in this film who are sadly underutilized. They have about 1 or 2 minutes of screen time, and that's it. Actors like Colin Firth and Benedict Cumberbatch, they're in the movie, but barely in the movie. I don't understand why they were in this film just to be in the movie for a couple of minutes. You could have gotten somebody else to replace them. I don't understand that. So 1917 is a very impressive looking movie. Sam Mendes, he accomplished so much with the making of this film, and I give him a lot of credit. This movie looks beautiful and it's very well made. I'm sure the process was extremely difficult, but looking past the cinematography and how this movie was made, I don't think it really works well for a war movie because you're not given a ton of exciting scenes like a lot of other war movies. Instead, you're kind of forced to be with the characters the entire time, and this movie does get pretty slow and boring more often than not, and it did not help that our leads were not given any characterization, so you don't really care about them or what happens to them. There wasn't much emotional attachment for myself in this movie because of how boring some scenes got for myself, and therefore 1917, in my opinion, is not one of the best war movies that I have ever seen. So I'm giving 1917 a 72%. Other people will disagree big time, and that's completely fine. If you love this movie, I understand why. Just me personally, I think it could have been a lot better. I think it's right around the same ballpark as Dunkirk for myself. Will I ever watch this movie again? Probably not. I'd rather watch something that's a little bit more gut-punching and exhilarating for a war movie, that is. So 1917, I do love it how we got a World War I movie finally, but this was not as good as it could have been, in my opinion. If you guys also happen to see 1917, be sure to let me know down below in the comment section what your thoughts are of it. If you're new to my channel, click the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.